She walked into the boutique in simple clothes, jeans, a light cardigan, her hair tied back. All she wanted was to buy a vintage watch as a gift for her husband. But the staff looked at her with suspicion, and the manager, with a smirk, asked for financial verification. In the end, they showed her the door, saying, "People like you don't belong here." An hour later, a sleek black SUV pulled up outside. When her billionaire husband stepped out, the entire boutique fell silent. Before the story continues, if you enjoy heartwarming, meaningful stories like this one, stay with us. And if you haven't subscribed yet, we'd truly love for you to join us by hitting that subscribe button and turning on the notification bell. Every day, we bring you powerful moments that can touch your heart and gently shift the way you see the world. Now let's begin. That morning, Madison Avenue shimmered under Manhattan's early sun. The glass storefronts caught the golden light. High-end fashion houses were just beginning to open, and the chilled air pouring from luxury boutiques offered a brief escape from the humid start to summer. Elena Brooks walked at a calm pace along the stone-tiled sidewalk, her chestnut hair pulled into a low knot, her face makeup-free. She wore a beige cardigan over a simple blouse, dark jeans, and worn sneakers. She looked no different from a middle-aged woman running errands. No one would have guessed she had once taught at Harvard and was now the co-founder of a national public health foundation. But today was no ordinary day. Her husband, Dr. Nathaniel Brooks, a renowned neurosurgeon, was turning 50. After nearly 2 decades of marriage, Elena knew that the most meaningful gifts weren't the most expensive. They were the most thoughtful. She had spent weeks researching and finally found the perfect one. A vintage Swiss wristwatch from the 1950s that once belonged to a military field surgeon. That watch was currently on display at Maison Renée, an elite vintage boutique nestled between Chanel and Tom Ford. Elena paused in front of the gleaming glass window, her eyes drawn to the timepiece sitting on black velvet. Her wristwatch read 10:30 a.m. Nathaniel would meet her at Le Pavé, their favorite cafe, at noon. She had more than enough time to purchase the gift, have it wrapped, and stroll to their lunch spot. As she opened the door to the boutique, a soft bell chimed. The interior embraced her with cool air and the subtle scent of leather, French perfume, and polished oak. Inside, it was hushed, only the click of heels on marble and the quiet hum of discretion. Sales associates in black uniforms stood poised, their posture perfect, voices hushed, expressions cool. One of them glanced briefly at Elena, then away, as if brushing her presence aside like a wrinkle in silk. Elena moved toward the glass display where the watches were kept. There it was, the Helvetia 1954, a beautiful piece with a silver dial worn by time and a dark green leather strap. It wasn't just a watch, it was a story, a history told in quiet ticks. A voice cut through the quiet, polite but detached. "May I help you?" Elena turned. A young woman in a form-fitting black dress, hair pinned tight, lips painted a deep red. Her eyes scanned Elena's outfit, landing on her shoes before settling into a polite smile that didn't reach her eyes. "That particular watch is $92,000, the woman noted, casually but clearly. "I'm aware," Elena said calmly. "I'd like to see it." A flicker of hesitation crossed the associate's face. "Perhaps I could show you something more accessible. We have a lovely selection of entry-level vintage pieces that may better match your needs." Elena held, her gaze firm but measured. "I'd like to see the one I asked about, thank you." With a visible sigh, the associate fetched a small key and unlocked the case, removing the watch with slow, exaggerated care. She placed it on a velvet pad and gently slid it toward Elena, keeping a notable distance. "This is a limited edition," she explained as if trying to deter the casually dressed customer. "Only 7 are known to exist." Elena picked it up delicately, as if handling memory itself. A quiet smile touched her lips. "It's perfect." "I'll take it," the associate blinked, caught off guard. "You'll take it? Would you like to discuss financing options?" "That won't be necessary," Elena replied softly. Behind her, a man with slicked back hair and an impeccable navy Suit had been watching. He stepped forward with the posture of authority. Elena didn't need to be told. This was the manager. His expression was already rehearsed, the kind of pleasant mask worn by people who had judged you long before opening their mouths. That's when everything began to change. Elena remained upright, her gaze steady on the watch resting on its velvet cradle. She didn't need to explain herself. This wasn't just a gift. It was a gesture of gratitude, of love for a man who had stood beside her through decades of life, healing others as he had helped heal her. "I'll be paying in full," she repeated, her voice even. That statement didn't seem to sit well in a place where money and assumptions often outweighed grace and quiet confidence. The young sales associate, still clinging to her skepticism, subtly gestured toward the back. A man in his late 40s emerged, walking with practiced authority. His Italian suit hugged a well-kept frame, and his slicked-back silver hair glinted under the boutique's soft lighting. His face was a perfect study in polished self-assurance, as though he belonged in a catalog for luxury lifestyle, rather than behind a register. "Good morning," he greeted smoothly, his eyes already assessing Elena's outfit before she spoke. "Is there something I can assist with?" "She's asking to purchase the Helvetia 1954, the associate replied, placing emphasis on the word purchase in a way that made it sound almost ridiculous. "Ah, the Chronomaster," the man nodded slowly, as though the request warranted further investigation. His name tag read, Langston. He turned his full attention to Elena. "The Chronomaster is one of our most exclusive pieces," he said gently. "Perhaps Veronica can show you some items better suited for browsing." Elena met his eyes, her voice calm. "I'm not browsing. I'd like to purchase this watch." Langston exchanged a look with Veronica. A glance. Nothing more. But Elena had seen this before. Retail staff in silent agreement when someone didn't seem to belong. "Of course," Langston said, lips smiling but eyes already dismissing her. "However, we do have policies for high-value items. I'd need to verify a few things before proceeding with such a significant transaction." "Verify?" Elena tilted her head. "A platinum card at minimum. Or a printed account balance," Langston said matter-of-factly. "We've had issues recently. You understand, I'm sure." Elena paused. She didn't carry credit cards on mornings like this, just her ID, keys, and love enough to pick the right gift. "My husband will be meeting me here shortly," she said plainly. "He can confirm anything you need." Langston's eyebrows lifted with a knowing smile. "Ah, a husband. Of course. It might be best if we wait for him to finalize the purchase." There it was, voiced with politeness, wrapped in assumption. She was making it up, a common ploy perhaps. "The watch is a surprise," Elena replied, her tone edged with resolve. "I'd prefer to complete the transaction before he arrives." Langston made a show of checking his wristwatch. "I'm afraid, without verification, I can't authorize this sale. We have many genuine customers waiting for assistance." He nodded toward a well-dressed couple nearby. They quickly looked away, feigning disinterest while unmistakably listening in. The boutique door chimed again. A woman swept in, flowing silk dress, soft curls, blush-colored Louboutins clicking against the marble floor. The atmosphere shifted instantly. Langston lit up. "Miss Reynolds, what an honor!" he exclaimed, already walking toward the actress with exaggerated delight. He called over his shoulder, barely glancing back. "Veronica, please assist this guest, or direct her to our viewing section in the back." Veronica leaned toward Elena and muttered, "We don't actually have a back section." Then, in a clearer voice laced with finality, "Maybe you should turn when your husband's with you." Elena looked at her watch. Nathaniel would arrive in 30 minutes. She could wait, let him walk in and handle this. But doing so would mean using his name just to earn basic dignity. And that was something she had never needed before. The glass door of Maison Renee closed behind Elena with a soft but definitive click. The midday sun on Madison Avenue suddenly felt too harsh, as if the city itself were casting light on the insult she had just endured. She took a steady breath, shoulders straight. Inside, no one had spoken up. No one had offered a kind glance, a questioning look. But she refused to let their silence define her. As she turned to leave, a quiet voice called out beside her, "Are you all right?" Elena turned. It was the woman who had entered just after her, actress Sabrina Reynolds. A Maison Renee shopping bag dangled delicately from her fingers, while her driver held the car door open. "I was inside," Sabrina said gently. "I saw everything. The way they treated you was appalling." Elena offered a small, guarded smile. "Thank you, I'm fine. Just surprised people still judge so quickly." Sabrina nodded, her expression softening. "They think they know everything about you, just from your shoes." The car door shut, and Sabrina was gone. Elena lingered a moment longer, then began, walking slowly down the block, shoulders upright, footsteps steady. She would not give Langston the satisfaction of seeing her standing outside, like she'd been dismissed. Meanwhile, just a few blocks away, Dr. Nathaniel Brooks was wrapping up a clinical discussion on a rare brain surgery case. The wall clock showed 11:42. As always, he had timed his morning with precision, enough to be punctual for lunch with Elena. In the back seat of a sleek black sedan, he leaned into the leather upholstery as the car glided toward Maison Renee. Still heading. "To the boutique, sir?" the driver asked. Nathaniel nodded. "Yes, my wife's already there." As the vehicle pulled up near the boutique, a woman approached the car window cautiously. "Excuse me, are you Nathaniel Brooks?" Nathaniel lowered the window, instinctively alert. "I am. Can I help you?" "I just thought you should know your wife was just asked to leave that store." Her voice was low, tinged with concern. "I was inside. What I witnessed was beyond disrespectful." She gestured toward the end of the block, where Elena was walking slowly, her silhouette proud and solitary amid the fashionable crowd. Nathaniel's jaw tensed. He nodded once. "Thank you for telling me." He didn't call Elena. Instead, he reached for his phone and texted his assistant. "Reschedule my 2 p.m. Urgent matter." The reply came instantly. "Done. Everything okay?" "Will be." Nathaniel typed and tucked the phone away. Standing outside Maison Renee, he didn't rush. Through the window, he could see the manager, Langston, laughing with the sales associate, Veronica. The smug ease in their posture, the flick of Langston's wrist, the raised brow. They spoke a language of practiced superiority, one that said, "Problem solved." At the far end of the block, Elena turned. Their eyes met. Hers held something complex, surprise, weariness, and something else deeper. Not sadness, not anger. A quiet, familiar kind of resignation. The kind you carry when you've had to be dignified in rooms that didn't offer you space to be human. She walked quickly toward him. "Just taking a short walk," she said softly, touching his arm. "How was your morning?" Nathaniel studied her face. After nearly 20 years together, he could see what others wouldn't. The tightness in her mouth, the guarded sparkle in her eyes, the invisible bruise left by someone else's arrogance. "Someone told me what happened," he said quietly. Elena exhaled, her gaze dropping. "It's nothing, Nathaniel. Just more people making snap judgments. I didn't want to ruin the surprise." "It's not nothing," he replied. His tone was even, but beneath it was a chilling focus, the same tone that made hospital boards fall silent mid-sentence. "No one treats you that way. Not here, not anywhere." She opened her mouth to protest, but he had already turned. Her hand slipped from his as he strode toward the boutique, his steps deliberate and final. Every stride was a signal. This will not go unnoticed. Not this time. Inside Maison Renee, Langston was still recounting the situation with amused flair. "She looked like she just left the gym," he chuckled to Veronica. "Wanted to see the Chronomaster, no less." The door opened. There. Laughter faded the moment Nathaniel Brooks entered. The room shifted before anyone moved. The boutique's polished calm, so carefully curated, faltered in the presence of the man who had just walked through its door. Even those who didn't recognize Dr. Nathaniel Brooks instinctively sensed something had changed. his navy suit, tailored to precision. His silver-threaded hair swept back. His posture, straight-backed, controlled, spoke of someone used to holding lives in his hands. He didn't need to announce authority. He wore it like second skin. Langston's smile attempted to recover. "Good afternoon, sir. Welcome to Maison Renée. How may we assist you today?" Nathaniel's eyes scanned the room. The display cases gleamed. Veronica shifted behind the counter, suddenly busy with nothing. Finally, his gaze settled on Langston. "I believe," Nathaniel said, voice even, "that you just removed my wife from this store." Langston paled instantly. Behind Nathaniel, Elena stepped through the door. The realization spread like wildfire. Veronica's hands froze mid-rearrangement. A couple across the boutique stopped pretending to browse. The air thickened. "Mr. Brooks," Langston stammered. "There's been a terrible misunderstanding." Nathaniel raised a hand. Calm, precise. "Has there?" He turned slightly, addressing the room as much as the man in front of him. "From what I understand, my wife was judged solely on her appearance, denied the opportunity to make a purchase, and then escorted out of the store. And all while derogatory comments were made in front of other customers. No one dared interrupt. "Sir, had we known who Mrs. Brooks was," Langston began. Nathaniel cut him off, not unkindly, but firmly. "That's precisely the problem, Mr. Langston. You should not need to know who someone is to treat them with basic respect." He turned to Elena. "Was this the watch you wanted?" She nodded quietly, pointing to the Helvetia 1954, still resting under glass like a trophy. Nathaniel nodded back. "Excellent choice." Then to Langston again, his tone now colder but never raised. "I'd like to speak to the owner of this establishment." Langston swallowed. "Mr. Goldstein is in New York this week, but I'm the general manager. I have full authority to—" "Perfect," Nathaniel interrupted. "Then you have full authority to explain to Mr. Goldstein why Maison Renée is about to have a very public relations nightmare on its hands, and why your most exclusive pieces are about to be showcased somewhere else." The words hung in the air like the strike of a gavel. Everyone in the store understood exactly what he meant. Nathaniel Brooks wasn't just a billionaire. His firm, Brooks Equity, held controlling shares in multiple luxury brands across North America. His influence reached far beyond medicine. Langston's voice had dropped to near whisper. "Mr. Brooks, please. There must be something we can do to rectify this." Nathaniel exhaled slowly. Then, almost casually, he placed an arm around Elena's shoulders. "Actually," he said, his voice softening, "there is." He turned slightly, speaking more deliberately now. "First, I'd like you to apologize to my wife. Not because she's my wife, but because she deserved to be treated with respect, regardless of who she is or what she's wearing." Langston turned to Elena. The shift in his expression was almost theatrical. His earlier arrogance vanished, replaced by pure fear. "Mrs. Brooks, I can't begin to express how deeply I regret my behavior. It was inexcusable." Elena simply nodded. "She didn't need more than that," Nathaniel continued. "Now, about consequences." He reached into his suit jacket and produced a card. "My office will be in touch regarding your employment." Langston blinked. "My employment?" Nathaniel's smile was ice. "Did I forget to mention? My firm finalized the acquisition of controlling interest in Goldstein Luxury Group this morning. Technically, I'm your boss now." A sharp inhale rippled across the boutique. Veronica's hand shot to her mouth. Langston took a step back, steadying himself. "But rather than fire you," Nathaniel continued, "I have something more constructive in mind." He glanced at Elena, whose brow lifted slightly. "Maison Renée will be launching a mandatory training program next month. Sensitivity, unconscious bias, and customer service ethics, led by professionals." He looked to Elena, a trace of a smile on his lips. "And my wife has graciously agreed to oversee the development of the program." Elena hadn't agreed to any such thing, but she understood the strategy. This wasn't revenge. This was transformation. She gave a slow, measured nod. Your other option, Nathaniel added, turning back to Langston, is to resign immediately. Langston looked between them, humiliation warring with survival instinct. I would appreciate the opportunity to learn and improve, sir. Nathaniel checked his watch. Excellent. Training begins next week. Now, if you'll complete. My wife's original purchase. We have a lunch reservation to keep. Langston moved with trembling hands to retrieve the timepiece. The same hands that had waved Elena toward the door were now wrapping the vintage watch with care, so meticulous, it bordered on reverence. Langston's hands trembled as he wrapped the watch. The same watch he had denied Elena earlier now sat nestled in the boutique's most luxurious packaging. Gold-stamped logo, imported ribbon. He double-checked the wrap 3 times before carefully placing it into the Maison René gift bag, as if afraid that a single crease might be grounds for dismissal. He held out the bag with both hands. A bow, of sorts. Thank you for your patronage, Mrs. Brooks, he said, voice low and devoid of pride. Elena accepted it with grace, not smuggness, not sarcasm. Just a quiet nod. She didn't need to humiliate him. That had never been the point. As she and Nathaniel turned to leave, the boutique fell eerily silent. Sales associates avoided eye contact. A few customers watched from behind sunglasses or over the rims of coffee cups, but no one said a word. Only the bell above the door chimed softly as they stepped back into the daylight. Outside, Madison Avenue buzzed on, unaware that something had shifted behind the crystal windows of one of its most exclusive stores. Elena and Nathaniel walked a few steps in silence before he asked, "How do you feel?" She looked down at the carefully wrapped bag in her hand, then up at the man who had just defended her with more power in a whisper than most could in a shout. "Like I don't need this watch to prove anything," she said softly. Then, with a small smile, "But I'm still glad he's getting it." Nathaniel returned the smile, his arm gently brushing against hers as they turned the corner. They arrived at Le Pavé, their lunch spot, where a table had been reserved in the sun-dappled courtyard. It was quiet, shaded by soft linen umbrellas and climbing vines, the kind of place where conversations stayed low and glances stayed kind. As they sat, Nathaniel reached across the table and took her hand. "Was that strictly necessary?" Elena asked, tilting her head. Nathaniel paused. His eyes softened. "Absolutely, not because you're my wife, but because no one deserves to be treated like that." He said it plainly, with the conviction of someone who'd spent his life repairing broken systems. Someone who knew that fixing things wasn't always about force. Sometimes it was about showing people what respect looked like. They ate slowly, savoring the calm. The meal wasn't fancy, but it didn't need to be. What mattered most had already happened. Elsewhere on Madison Avenue, the story of what had unfolded inside Maison René had begun to spread. Passed from mouth to mouth, whispered between customers, picked up by a fashion blogger who happened to be in the store. By evening, it would be trending. By morning, it would be a lesson. A boutique that sold luxury would be reminded of something more valuable. Before leaving the restaurant, Elena excused herself to the restroom. When she returned, she found that the waiter had brought out a small dessert plate with a single elegant candle lit in the center. She looked at Nathaniel, surprised. He shrugged. "For you, for today." "But it's your birthday." He smiled. "Today it feels like yours." She leaned over and kissed him on the cheek. "Happy birthday, Nate." As they walked back toward the car, the sun was beginning to lower, casting long shadows on the sidewalk. Nathaniel glanced at the boutique's name behind them, etched in gold above the door. "You know," he said, "they sell a lot of expensive things in there." Elena looked back too, then at him. "But none of them can teach character." He nodded, and together they stepped forward, not triumphant, but affirmed. Two people who knew exactly who they were, long before anyone else did. Sometimes the most powerful stories aren't the ones shouted from rooftops. They're the quiet ones. The ones that unfold behind boutique windows and beneath ordinary clothing. The ones that remind us, true worth doesn't need a label. If this story touched something in you, maybe it reminded you of a time you were underestimated, or maybe it made you think about the way we look at others, then you're already part of the change. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever been judged by your appearance? Or witnessed someone rise above quiet injustice with quiet strength? Share your story in the comments below. You never know who might need to hear it today. And if you believe that character still matters, this world, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay with us for more stories that remind us of the power of dignity. Until next time, walk gently, but never shrink. You are more than what the world sees.